Hello everyone and welcome to a really wild game that took place yesterday in round 15 of the Magnus Carlsen Invitational Preliminaries. It's Nepomniachtchi, the current leader of the FIDE candidate tournament, against the 22-year-old Argentinian Grandmaster Alan Pichot. It is quite the game. So without further ado, let's check it out, and then we're going to discuss the standings a little bit and some other stuff. So Nepo, with the white pieces, opens with e4, and Pichot goes for the Sicilian defense with c5, knight to f3, e6, and Jan strikes in the center with d4. We have captures, and now knight to c6. So just naturally developing, going for the Taimanov variation. Knight to c3 and queen to c7 now. We have bishop to e3 and now a6, taking away the b5 square from white's pieces, and now queen to f3. There are many moves that are very popular here: bishop e2, bishop d3. You could continue with queen to d2, but here queen to e3, somewhat rarer, but not extremely rare. So queen to f3, and now we have knight to e5, and this is kind of breaking opening principles, but when you are already playing at this level, it's okay to break some of them. The most popular way to continue is just continue developing. But okay, knight to e5, attacking the queen, and now Nepo goes for queen to g3. And this is an excellent square for the queen. Not only is it paralyzing the knight, the queen would be captured on c7 if the knight moves, but also it prevents black from developing the bishop, the g7 pawn would hang, and so on. So here white continues with b5. It's not a problem. This all was played before, so no doubt that this is some excellent preparation by black. And Nepo castles queen side. We have knight to f6, continuing development, and now even f4, kicking away the knight. We have knight e to g4, now attacking the bishop. And now, while you could bring the bishop back to g1, it does make sense to control the knight, maybe push the knight back with h3. Later on, Nepo goes for bishop to d2, and now comes b4, attacking the knight, and the knight is also the defender of this pawn. But here it's not really a problem. Nepo just goes knight to a4. And the e4 pawn cannot be captured because the knight is now awkwardly placed on g4, so that's kind of a problem. So here, although you could go for example knight captures, queen captures, and knight to f2 with an attack on the rook and the queen, the problem is the rook on a8 is undefended, so queen f3 with a double attack solves all of white's problems, and white just wins this on the spot. So instead, after knight to a4, we have h5. Now the knight is nicely defended. And here comes bishop to d3. There is a game, or rather I think there are a few games where h3 was played, but here we have bishop to d3 by Nepo, and it is as of move 13 that we have a completely new game. So the bishop is excellently placed there, defending the e4 pawn, also helping out with the defense against some future checkmating ideas by black. Maybe bishop b7, rook c8 is going to put a lot of pressure on c2. So here we have d5 by black. Striking in the center could be a little bit dangerous. The black king is still in the center of the board, but we don't have captures allowing the knight to improve the position, but rather e5, chasing away the knight. Knight to e4, and now Nepo trades. We have bishop captures, d captures, and h3. So chasing away this knight, the knight has to go back to h6, which is not the most active of squares. Okay, you could shift it to f5 at some point, but it's hard to say if it will work. And here we have queen to b3 by Nepo. There is the option of playing bishop captures on b4, but it's such a complicated line, and it doesn't seem that it's a good one. Or it could be played, but it's so complicated that for a rapid game, I don't think it's even possible to play this, but I will show it to you because it's super fun. So if we capture on b4 and the black captures the bishop, which is what you want to do, you're going to capture on g7, attack the rook here. We have rook to f8, and now queen captures on h6. You win back your piece, but bishop to d7 is coming. And now what do you do with this knight here? Obviously, b3 is impossible. You just create too many weaknesses. Just bishop captures on a4 completely shatters white's queen side. So you're gonna have to go for f5 here. And here, all hell breaks loose because what can be done here? Bishop captures on a4. Black grabs a piece. F captures on e6, and this is just a very ugly. Rook to d8 now, trying to remove the defender of the c2 pawn, so queen captures on c2 will be checkmate, but now rook h to f1. We have rook captures on d4, now threatening checkmate, and now e captures on f7 with check. Rook captures and queen to e6 check, forcing the king to move either here or here, and then any capture will come with check. So queen to e7 seems to be best, and here it's a complete madness. Probably nothing better for white than to go for this repetition of moves after queen to c8 check, followed by queen to e6 check. So basically, capturing on b4 is the fanciest way to draw the game. So Nepo doesn't like this. He goes queen to b3. Puts pressure on e6 a lot of times, prepares f5 at some point, maybe g4 f5, but also it's just a very active square for the queen. So here bishop to d7, and now finally bishop captures on b4. Now the b4 square is defended, but now rook to b8, pinning the bishop. And here comes the move that, I'm sure Nepo is very proud of playing, as we all are, and that is bishop captures on f8. Here Nepo sacrifices the queen, and it's a very interesting decision, because black captured the queen. There is nothing better here, but now not the automatic a captures on b3, because then you allow black to capture your bishop. First you move the bishop with tempo. The queen is under attack. So queen to a5, the queen needs to move, and only now do we capture on b3, and now our bishop survives. So how do you continue this? With bishop captures on a4, b captures, queen captures, and now not allowing any queen to a1 ideas, bishop back to a3. And now we have this position where black does have compensation, okay, in this case white sacrifice, so white has compensation, but black needs to bring the knight and the rook into the game to be able to contest for anything in this game, and it's not an easy task. So here we have king to d7. You cannot go to e7, the bishop controls all of the dark squares, so king to d7, a brave move going into the line of fire of this rook, but it's not a problem. For the moment there are no great discoveries. So Nepo continues by bringing the other rook into the game. Now you can do some rook lifts, rook e3, maybe rook c3, rook to b3 if needed. So king to c8, getting the king away from any discoveries, and now rook captures on e4. And this is not just a pawn grab. The rook will be very active here, but now the knight cannot move, as the rook would be captured. So here, what you have to do here for black to play this game is to simply continue moving the king. King to b8, and after white starts bringing the rooks into the game, king to a8. And the black king is surprisingly safe here. There is no way to reach the black king, and now black will continue bringing the pieces into the game. However, here after rook captures on e4, Pichot played rook to d8, but now it's a bit of a different story. Now rook to d3, and now you are having some problems here, because if you go king to b8 now, there's this very unfortunate knight to c6 check, and now you have to capture the knight, otherwise you lose the queen. So queen captures, rook captures here with check, and now the game is completely lost for black. If king c7, you're just going to bring the rook to d4, prepare rook to c4, and there's no way for black to save the game. If king b7, just rook to c4, you attack the queen, queen to d5, you bring the other rook into the game, and whatever you play here, now the king is done for. Rook d7 check, you're gonna play something, king b8, now bishop to d6 check, you're gonna play king to a8, only move, and now, for example, this is checkmate. So this is only one of the lines that show how the moment for playing king to b8 is past, and black needs to find something else. So here you should start with something like rook to d5, as there's really nothing better here. But black tried knight to f5, which kind of makes sense. You want to trade off this very strong knight, and if the knight captures, of course, you're gonna capture the rook here. But the position is now completely lost, and Nepo has a winning idea. So feel free to pause the video here and win the game for Nepo while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on not capturing the knight. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it's actually knight captures on e6. It's very funny if you go for this knight captures on f5, queen captures, and then you try something like knight to d6 check, attacking the king and the queen. Here just rook captures on d6, and after e captures you block the passed pawn, and black is perfectly fine here, not much for white to hope for. But after this knight to f5, Nepo decided to play knight captures on e6, and now this is completely crushing. This is such an amazing move, and it was in this position that Alain Pichot immediately resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. Problem is, if you capture the rook now, then the rook is attacked twice. Rook captures on d8 with check. Only move for black is king to b7, and now check this out. Knight to c5 with a royal fork. White will also win the black queen. King to c7, knight captures here, and after rook captures, white will be up a piece in a completely winning endgame. Another thing you could do after knight captures on e6 is try something else, but I mean, what else is there? This is the threat. The queen is hanging, and there really is no there is no move here. If rook captures on d3, you could try and go for some sort of a weird endgame, but after rook captures on a4, you simply have no compensation. You can move the rook d5, but still, white is up a piece. White has more pawns. It would be pointless. So yeah, after this beautiful knight captures on e6 move, Pichot resigned, and another brilliant victory for Jan Nepomniachtchi, who qualifies for the knockout phase of this very nice tournament, that is the Magnus Carlsen Invitational. So before I forget, here are the not the standings, but here are the pairings for the knockout system, compliments of Chess 24. There you have it. In the quarterfinal match that will happen today, we'll have Magnus Carlsen versus Rhe1 Kc8. Jan Nepomniachtchi will be facing Hikaru Nakamura. Wesley So will be facing Alireza Firouzja, and Maxime Vachier-Lagrave will be facing Anish Giri. So it's gonna be pretty wild. Here, unfortunately, there is no way for us to have a Magnus Hikaru final if it would ever come to that. But it is possible to have, for example, a Magnus Wesley So final again. It's possible to have a Magnus Firouzja final. It's possible to have Nepomniachtchi Firouzja, Nepomniachtchi Wesley So it could happen. Anything. We could also have like an Anish Giri Wesley So final. So anything can happen. But I know how much you guys enjoy seeing Magnus and Hikaru in the final. So unfortunately for this tournament, this will not be an option. Well, sorry about that. So yeah, that's the game. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and another special congratulations to everyone who found this knight captures on e6 move just a spectacular idea. I would like to thank Scott Mellis, Lokas Theokaris, Dale Lear, Veselin Velichkov, and Cheese Roast for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot, I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check two of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing with the knockout phase of the tournament. See you soon, guys.